everybody. Welcome to Zone Defense. We talk all things NBA and NFL. Be sure to follow us on Spotify at Zone Defense Podcast, on Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, and hit that subscribe button down below because it really helps out our channel a lot. Also, drop a comment and let us know who you want in the first round of your fantasy football drafts. Today, we will be doing our first fantasy football mock draft of the season. How's it going, guys?
I'm good, Drew. I'm pretty excited for this. It's the first fantasy episode, I guess, of the new season, upcoming season. We might be a little rusty. I hope we're not, though. And we're doing this on Sleeper. I think it's a PPR. And we randomized the order. So Drew has the 1.3, Chris right after him with the 1.4, and I unfortunately got the 1.7. But hopefully I can still snag a good player there.
Yeah, I love mock drafting, of course, but this is the first one I've done this year as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what terrible picks I make now that I hopefully won't make during the actual drafts this season. But, you know, without further ado, let's jump right into it here.
Yeah, Chris, let's get this thing started. So team 1 with the 1-1 gets Christian McCaffrey, and then team 2 with Alvin Kamara, which makes me have to have a pick here at 1-3. I was adamant last season. I was like, I'm not taking Dalvin Cook. He gets hurt all the time. And I think I'm going to stick with that notion, actually. So he's right there. I could take him, but I'm going to take a guy who last season was the bona fide number 2 guy. He's number 5 here on this board. I think that Giants offense is looking really nice. I know he's coming off an injury, and I just got done making fun of Cook with injuries. But I'm going to take Saquon Barkley with my third overall pick, my first round pick.
Yeah, I mean, I was really hoping Saquon would fall to me here, but I mean, for me at the 4 spot, I'm absolutely thrilled with getting Dalvin Cook here. I'm just going to take him right now, and then Roman can talk about our picks and his own. Continue the running back train after that with Zeke going at the 105, which is very interesting. And then Derrick Henry falling to the 106, which is a pretty good value right before Roman's pick, but looks like he got sniped a little bit there, maybe.
It would be nice to have Henry, sure. And in terms of all 6 picks leading up to mine, I guess I'm not too surprised. Maybe you see wide receiver go here, and I guess 7 is a good spot for a wide receiver. Probably an Adams right here as well. There's no other wide receivers I would be considering. However, I'm probably going to go running back because there is another drop-off. And this one running back is going through his second year, and it's not who kept going in the first round of last year's drafts in CEH because I do not want to touch him in the first round again after we got burned last year. But I will be much more comfortable taking Jonathan Taylor in the first round, and I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah, that's definitely a good pick, Roman. Definitely, JT is going to be a really good player this year, I'm sure. Quarterback change means maybe a little bit more risk there, but I definitely still like the pick. After you, a huge wide receiver run with Adams, Tyreek, Diggs, and then Eckler, which I'm annoyed that he's off the board now, and then Kelsey with the 202, and then a surprising pick at 203. Calvin Ridley seems a little early for me there.
Especially with Hopkins still on the board, too. I would probably take Hopkins over Ridley, but Ridley's still a good player.
Yep, no, definitely a really good player.
You're definitely right about that. I definitely think I would take Hopkins over Eckler, Diggs, and Ridley. As much as I would love to take him here, you know me from my last drafts last season. I like to get my running back group solidified, and I will be taking Nick Chubb here with my next pick.
It's really good value, in my opinion. Yeah. I think you could even make an argument Chubb is better than Eckler. And I know Jonathan Taylor. I know we're all like on the JT train right now, but like I don't know. Like I had him last year, and I know it's second year. Maybe he could do better with the Colts, but I'm a little worried about there. But with JT and Chubb, I think you got a really, really strong running back group there.
Yeah, I agree with Drew there. I think Chubb maybe even end up being your RB1 potentially. I'm not saying Taylor is a bad pick at 7, but he definitely holds a lot more risk than taking Chubb at the 204. So I really like getting him as a more safe, low-end number 1, and then having Taylor with the upside, but the potential risk as well. I think it's a good duo. But I'm going to jump in. I also love to live and die by the 2 RB strategy right away. I'm going to take the highest guy ranked on the board, the guy that I really enjoy to watch, Joe Mixon. I think he's going to have a extremely good season. But Drew seemed pretty happy about that pick. Very curious to see who you're thinking about taking here.
Yeah, well, it's pretty on brand for me. I like as Roman likes to get his running back group solidified. I like to get my tight end solidified. So Kelsey went early. I was kind of disappointed by that. This guy burned me. He's one of my favorite players in the whole league, but he burned me last year because he was hurt for much of the season. Little worried because I'm getting two injured guys with my first two picks, but I'm going George
So does
Kittle to
Chris.
really solidify my tight end position as well. And I'm hoping that a running back would fall to me here or a wide receiver. And that's exactly what happened. Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, a little surprising, but he was really good last year too.
I'm
With those
very
next picks.
upset about the AJ Brown pick. I did want to go running back with my next pick. So spoiler alert, so you could end up sniping one of my guys here, I guess. But I was really hoping to get AJ Brown as well. I am insanely in on him this season. I think he honestly could finish as the wide receiver one. I wouldn't be that surprised. I would have taken him over DK Allen, maybe even DeAndre Hopkins potentially.
I love the wide receivers that went after Kittle. I love Keenan Allen. It might be a little early for him, though, but I think his ceiling's high with Herbert. And Jefferson, obviously, is going to rise up the boards. And I like the Metcalf Brown double up from Team 1, getting the Ole Miss connection back together.
Oh yeah, that's very interesting, especially pairing him with CMC as well, who's obviously a cheat code in himself. So that's a very, very good looking team so far. But Drew, giving you a little time to stall, who are you thinking about here at the running back position?
So originally I was going to go running back, and I was looking at Akers is there. I was really looking at Antonio Gibson, but there are some other guys. There's some decent value. There's some guys I think it's not as big of a drop off now. I think there's a guy I could get with my RB2 spot when it comes back around. It could bite me in the butt, but that's why you do mock drafts to kind of try strategies and see if they work or not. And there's a receiver on the board. Again, maybe I'm just taking my favorite players. I don't know. But Allen Robinson is there. I think he could have a really, really big year if Justin Fields gets that quarterback spot and he's as good as we all expect him to be. I like him a little more than Michael Thomas, especially considering who knows who's throwing the ball in New Orleans right now. Patrick Mahomes is there too, but I like waiting for quarterback. So I'm going to go Allen Robinson here, get a really solid wide receiver one. And I think I really like my three skill position groups right now with Barkley, Kittle, and A-Rob.
Yeah, that's a good pick there for sure. If Justin Fields ends up taking over, I could see Allen Robinson having another very good season. He was awesome last year. He's a super talented guy. I expect him to be nothing more than special again this season. But I'm going to go into my next pick here, and I'm very happy you didn't go receiver, and I have these exact same options I had when I was about to take Joe Mixon. So I'm going another running back here because I'm assuming these are going to dry up really quick, and I just got to figure out which one I want to take because, those top three guys, Akers, Gibson, Swift, all have them around the same tier for me. Akers, I'm a little bit worried about because, Darrell Henderson was banged up down the stretch. I think that had a little bit to do with why he went off. Gibson, I'm a little worried as well because it's, he started playing really well, then he had the injury. But so I'm gonna go with the hometown guy, and he's my RB3. I'm gonna go with DeAndre Swift here. I know he's got Jamal Williams coming in, but I still expect DeAndre Swift to carry the lion's share role. Anthony Lynn has been good for fantasy football running backs with Eckler and Melvin Gordon. He's coming in to run the offense. I'm expecting big things from DeAndre Swift this season in the receiving game. I think he'll catch a ton of passes.
Oh yeah, it's a good point for sure, and it's kind of funny how last year we saw CEH, the first rookie off the board. And this series is going to drop a lot. I'm not surprised by this. And I don't know if I'm going to take Gibson here, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Gibson went before CH as well. But it's very interesting. I like the pick overall.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead,
I think I probably like Gibson a little more, but Swift is still a really good pick. There's so many touches available in Detroit right now because they have no receivers. So I think Swift, as long as he stays healthy, there was some injury concerns last year. If he stays healthy, I think he could have a really, really big year. So I like the pick overall.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm in a very interesting spot now because Mahomes shouldn't be at the 3-7, but he's there and he's calling my name. There's a couple running backs I mentioned. Gibson, I really like him. He's on my dynasty team. There's McLaurin. There's Waller. Oh man, it's tough. I think I'm gonna have to go Mahomes just because he's there. You gotta take him. And obviously, it's not my preferred strategy, but he shouldn't be falling there in the first place. And I'm just gonna capitalize on it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't mind the pick at all. I mean, See, I'm not a guy that likes to go quarterback early, but I don't think this is super early. Usually, when we play in our league, he goes in like the first round, maybe in the early second round, which I always
Yeah.
hate that pick because it's just way too early for him. But I still think I think at the 3-7, it's not a bad value, and it's worth trying this draft strategy so you could see if you want to take a quarterback up early here for sure. But you're back on the clock here at the 4-4. Very curious to see with what player you go with here. I think you have a lot of options. Tight end potentially, a couple guys, receiver for sure. Still a lot of good names on the list, and then obviously running back as well to solidify that depth piece. But let's see what you got with here.
Yeah, I did get a little burned, to be honest, with Clorin, Gibson, and Walder. The 3 picks right after me, and Clyde and Woods are gone. I like Woods a lot. Team 8 just stacking up on all the wide receivers here. Running backs available, there's Dobbins, there's Montgomery, Jacobs, who I don't like this season, Carson, who I like this season. Wide receivers, there's Julio, who's rumored to be traded. I guess today the Falcons say that they want to trade him. There's Godwin, Cooper, Evans, and like you mentioned, tight end, there's Andrews, Hawkinson. A lot of good options here. Oh, man, this is tough. This is tough. I think I have to go wide receiver here because I think I can snag another running back later on. It's not going to be Julio, though, and although this player is on the franchise tag, I'm just going to take Chris Godwin because I think he'll pan out this year and have another good season.
Sweet, let's go. That's a good pick there for sure, Roman. I'm extremely happy that Julio and Mike Evans went right after this because I'm going to try my own strategy I have never tried in a draft before. I'm going to take a 4th running back in a row and solidify my second flex spot. I'm not going to take J.K. Dobbins, though, because I think this guy's ADP is extremely messed up on Sleeper. I'm going to take another shot on another risky player, which I think Swift is too, and take Najee Harris as my RB4 here. I'm extremely into him this season. I think he's going to have a great year. He's going to touch the ball 300 times. The fact that he's 51 on Sleeper's ADP is absolutely asinine. I think he belongs ahead of all of the running backs still on the board. I think he's going to have a great season this year and be around, top 10, top 15. But the fact that in a double flex league, I have 4 really good running backs, and I still enjoy a lot of the receivers on the board that potentially could even be my wide receiver 1. I am extremely happy with the way this draft started. I'm just hoping the guy that I want at receiver falls back to me.
Yeah, I think when you can go, Drew.
I was looking at Najee too. I thought because by all accounts he's going to be the guy in Pittsburgh. He's going to get a ton of touches. There is some concern with the offensive line there, but we saw even James Conner last year, who wasn't even that good of a player to be honest. He still was fantasy relevant, and I think Najee is more talented than he is. I think he got a really big year, so I like that pick, and I also like Roman. You taking Godwin too? That was a nice pick.
Yeah, and for Najee, I don't even think that this is his ceiling. He can definitely go maybe second round by August or in the fall. Yeah. And I think just in a running back class where it's really weak and there's not really much going on there, I think people are going to be early to jump the gun on Harris in the first couple of rounds.
We could see like a Clyde-like rise out of him, like we saw in late July, early August last year. And hopefully Najee delivers unlike Clyde did last season. But so I'm going to go here. I am going to go running back. I was pretty happy, Chris, when you passed on J.K. Dobbins because I'm going to take J.K. Dobbins right here. I think, honestly, we saw he was solid down the stretch last season, and Mark Ingram's not there at all anymore. I think he could be a really good second-year breakout player. I think, in my opinion, I think he's a very similar tier to DeAndre Swift, Akers, Antonio Gibson, even Sanders, Clyde. A lot of the guys that went earlier, I think Dobbins is right up there. So I'm happy that I was able to get a really good receiver in Robinson with my last pick, and then still get a guy like Dobbins my next pick. And then we got. Oh, you can go, Chris.
I just wanted to say, with Dobbins, I definitely like him, and if Najee wasn't on the board, he would have been the next running back I would have wanted to go with. But for Dobbins, I'm a little bit worried just because Lamar loves to siphon those goal line targets or those goal line touches away. So does Gus Edwards. Also a full PPR. He probably won't catch a ton of passes, but Dobbins is a super talented back, so he can overcome all that and just be extremely efficient and make your fantasy team really happy like he did in the second half of last year. So it was still a very good pick, and getting him at the 4.8 seems like robbery to me.
Yeah, for sure. I see that concern too. But I think right now, because of the strategy I played, I waited a little bit longer. It's hard to get a running back without any clear concerns, especially with Lamar there. And maybe he gets hurt. Maybe Dobbins gets better. Who knows? But then you got Amari Cooper, then Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, CeeDee Lamb. receiver run there. I'm happy about that because I wanted to go another running back. And there's another guy here who I'm kind of surprised that he's still on the board. He was like a second round, borderline first round pick last season. I know he's got a lot of Kenyon Drake worry because he's over there in Las Vegas now. But having him as my RB3, I am more than happy to do that because Kenyon Drake last year, as we saw, he was a big disappointment, got hurt all the time. If that happens again, I think Josh Jacobs could be another really good player. So I'm going to have him as my RB3 again. I'm really happy about that because I think the upside is there, even though there are obviously some still clear concerns with his touches and everything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with this pick, I mean, getting Josh Jacobs at the 5.3, I know we're not as in on him as usual because maybe there's some risk, but getting him at the 5.3 is ridiculous. I see him as maybe, a third, potentially early fourth-round pick at the latest, but I would be absolutely willing to take him at the 5.3. Just the fact that Najee, Dobbins were still on the board, I wasn't quite interested in him yet, but it seems like with Sleeper, they're taking a lot of these receivers early, which you said you're thrilled about. I am extremely unhappy about because I'm trying to take some receivers now, and the fact that they're Cooper, I wanted Cooper and DJ Moore both, and both of them are now off the board. So I have a tough decision to make here. Obviously, any of those top names. Go ahead.
You could go quarterback too. Josh Allen is still on the board. He was very on par with Patrick Mahomes last year.
I was looking at that as well. You know what? For the fun of the draft, I am going to take Josh Allen here. I was very much considering that because, like I was about to say, the receivers, I was kind of a little sketch with them. My wide receiver one isn't going to be great, but there's still some options I like, but there wasn't one that really stuck out to me with those receivers going off the board right before my pick. So
Drew,
getting Josh Allen was great.
I'm glad you convinced him to take a quarterback because I think if he were to go wide receiver, he would have taken the guy that I wanted here. But I'll touch on both of your picks first. Jacobs, I think this is a good value spot for him, although I do think he can rise in more casual leagues. So you might not realize how big of an impact Drake could have. But appropriately, I think that's a good spot for him. And I think he's a fun player. I just think it's disappointing how his upside got ruined with Drake. And then Josh Allen, I got him in the 10th round last year in one of our mock drafts. And obviously, it's appropriate for him to rise up into the 5th round. He could go probably earlier than that, too. I like the pick, though, there. And, Chris, I think you're just completing your team even more. And hopefully you can find those late round wide receivers. Can I ask you a question? If you were to go wide receiver, who would you go with? Would you have
my pick would have I don't want to tell you because you got another pick on the board, but I will tell you after you make this pick because you do have another pick, and I really need a wide receiver one, so I'm going to wait on it. But I think I know who you think I'm going to take. I guess if that makes sense.
I think you're going to go with probably the best wide receiver one available. A player on a new offense, maybe. I'm going to go with Kenny Golladay.
Homer.
He's not on the Lions anymore. I can take him now. It's fine.
Crap. No, the receiver I would have taken at that spot, surprisingly enough, with Thielen and Golladay on the board, I would have taken Deontay Johnson. That's who my wide receiver.
That's who I was going to guess because I know you loved him last year too.
Yeah,
but I personally would have went with Golladay, even though I was making fun of you, Roman. I would have taken Golladay.
I'm a little disappointed. because I like Carson a lot, and he didn't fall back to me. Deontay Johnson went right after Golladay, and then Kyler Murray, Prescott, Thielen, and Andrews off the board. I wasn't really considering any of those guys besides Carson. I'm just really surprised that Team 8 is just stacking on all these wide receivers and haven't gotten a single running back yet. But anyways, back to me. There are some very good wide receivers still available. I'm very happy with that. Running backs, it's getting dry a little bit. I don't know if I want to take Kareem Hunt because he's one of my guys. I take him in almost every draft. But I have Nick Chubb, so I don't know if that's necessarily ruined now for me. But if you guys get him, good for you. Like I said, the running backs, nothing really going on right now. I'm not really impressed. But, the value is there for wide receiver. 2 guys I'm looking at right now. I love both of them. You can't go wrong with either one. Oh, it's tough. I'm going to go – it's pretty much a crapshoot between these 2 guys. And I think you both know who those guys might be. Dang. I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk. I think, obviously he's on a good offense right now. And if they get Trey Lance in the future, he could be even better. But obviously, I think the other guy is still available, so you can take him, Chris.
It looked like Drew was extremely unhappy about that.
Great pick, Roman. I was not unhappy about you taking
the Lamar Jackson.
I was upset because Lamar Jackson somehow was still on the board. all due respect to Dak Prescott, great player, even Kyler Murray, but I don't understand how Lamar went after both of those guys.
Yeah,
I
You could
agree.
even make an argument he should have
Yeah.
went. I like Josh Allen more, but you could
I agree.
make an argument that Lamar could be the second QB off the board. So him being the fifth, I thought was great value.
Right.
I was hoping he would fall back to me, but unfortunately, it makes my pick a little bit easier though. But yeah,
Definitely.
Ayuk though, it's between him and another guy that I'm assuming Chris is probably going to take, even though this other guy does have some concerns with another big receiver now in his wake. So I'm interested to see where you go here, Chris.
See, I was considering, I know you're talking about T. Higgins, obviously the top
Yeah.
guy. I actually like a player on the board a little bit more than that, and you may be able to guess this. I'm not sure, but I'm going to go with the wide receiver one that had an had an injury all of last season. It's Courtland Sutton. You still have the chance Aaron Rodgers ends up going there. He could turn an instant dynamite top 3-4 round pick if that happens. But even without him, I think Sutton is an elite wide receiver one who has a ton of talent. It's coming off the injury, obviously. Have to discount him a little bit for that. But getting him as my wide receiver one with the amount of upside he holds makes me extremely happy. And this was the guy I was hoping would fall. When I took Josh Allen, I hope he would fall because I knew Deontay probably wouldn't. And it worked out that way. So I'm very happy getting Courtland Sutton here in the 6-7 spot as my wide receiver one.
I thought you were kind of alluding to OBJ there because they're pretty much in the same situation, both out last year. Sutton, I think it could be crowded, though. We didn't really get to see him full-fledged with Fant and Judy. It could be crowded, but like you said, you're kind of banking on them having a better quarterback in Rodgers. Bridgewater, I don't think raises his stock any higher, but Sutton is a good wide receiver. With a good quarterback, he'll be have a good upside for sure.
Yeah, I was hoping Sutton. I was probably going to take him with one of these two picks. So I'm disappointed by that. But yeah, I mean, he was a guy that we were really high on last year before the injury. And I think especially if they get Aaron Rodgers here, I mean, I think he could have a big season, unless he's involved in that trade for he goes over to Green Bay, then maybe not so much. But so I do need a wide receiver too. However, I'm looking at these receivers. I feel like I can get another, like they're all, in my opinion, relatively the same tier. I feel like I can get one of these guys when the wraparound, especially looking at team one and team two, where they've just loaded up on receivers. So I'm going to go running back. Because, like you said, Roman, there's a bit of a tier break here coming up. And I'm deciding between Myles Gaskin, who at the moment at least is the clear-cut number one guy in Miami. Chase Edmonds too. I'm a little concerned there because James Conner's there now. Kareem Hunt, who's the backup in Cleveland, had a solid year last year. And that's really it. The three guys I'm deciding between. I'm going to go with the guy who's currently the RB1 in his running back group. I'm concerned because I have him in Dynasty, so I don't know how long he's going to be the RB1. But having him as my RB4, I'm more than happy about. So I really lock up my running back depth, so I'm going to get Myles Gaskin here.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot, Drew. I actually think Gaskin is a pretty good value. I think he could be better than, Josh Jacobs. Definitely. I mean, I know Chase Edmonds, a couple picks after, but the difference between Gaskin and Edmonds is extremely high. So I think Gaskin in the 6th round is a steal, especially in a PPR league. I think he's going to have plenty of value as, mid to high end RB2 this year. I think I'm pretty in on Gaskin right now.
Yeah, I like the pick as well. Those guys are pretty much left on that tier. And you, like you said, you do have him in Dynasty, and you're pretty high on him. So hopefully, you can have the clear-cut RB1 slot, and if he does, he'll put up some good value for you in a flex position.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we got Dallas Goddard, tight end, a little high, but I mean, I feel like
he's been rising.
He has been rising, but I feel like if you miss out on the top 4, maybe top 5, if you really love TJ Hawkinson and you're a homer. I would probably just kind of wait draft tight end late rounds, especially with those running backs on the board for team 2. And then they also go Russell Wilson, who I think is also a little high, especially the second half of last year. There's a lot of turmoil there in Seattle. So I'm very happy now because I think I'm going to go running back again, which I know might be surprising. I mean, James Robinson's there, which I really sucks for him because I think he would be a top 4 running back he'd be in the top 4 rounds drafted, not the top 4 running back. Excuse me. If they hadn't drafted Travis Etienne, but I think I'm going to go Kareem Hunt here. Really, just lock down my running backs again with my receivers. I'm happy with the guys that are still on the board. I feel confident that these guys will come back around. Especially against some of the teams that have taken like all wide receivers basically.
Yeah.
So my wide receiver 2 and my depth might not be as great, but maybe if this is my actual team, I can trade some of these RBs for some quality wide receivers
Right.
down the line. But I'm happy with
Yeah.
how it's turned out so far.
Yeah, I'm extremely happy, and the gamble paid off for me because I mentioned T. Higgins before. I'm going to take him here as my wide receiver 2. I know they bring in Jamar Chase. Doesn't mean T. Higgins is going anywhere. This guy was very good last season, even with a lot of competition for targets there. And AJ Green, I know AJ Green stunk last year, but he's leaving, about, I believe around 90 targets up for grabs. And I think Jamar Chase can fill that role pretty well. Maybe they throw a ball a little bit more. And I think T. Higgins will get about the same amount of volume he had last year. And he was very good with that. With Joe Burrow. So I'm very in on him this year in the 7th round. I think that's a good spot for him to be drafted.
Yeah, Higgins was the other wide receiver I was debating with him or Ayuk. I've been comfortable with both there, and Higgins had a great rookie season. Chase obviously will put somewhat of a dent in that, but obviously if Burrow's healthy, they're both going to go off no matter what. So you pretty much got a good player there. And after that was Fant and Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm in a good spot because I have 2 guys I want. I know one of them will probably be on the way back to me. You mentioned James Robinson, and at first when they drafted ETN, I'm like, oh gosh, why would you do that? This guy is ruined in fantasy purposes. But you kind of hear what they're talking about there. It is coach speak, whether it's, we're going to use ETN on 3rd down. Oh, he's actually going to be a slot wide receiver sometimes, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that could be true. But I think I'm going to take a shot on Robinson here. The other running backs were Gordon, who I don't like, David Johnson, no, Mostert, no, Fournette, and I think Robinson may have the higher upside out of all of them. So I'm going to go with James Robinson, and it could very well bust, but I like him a little bit, so we'll try it out.
Oh, receiver run. That's not what I was looking for there.
Yeah,
I was really hoping Claypool would come back to me for my wide receiver 3 spot. But, sometimes it's the way the ball bounces here. But, Roman, you're back on the clock, man, after the Robinson pick, which, in the 7th round, I don't know if I love him, but I do like him in comparison to like a David Johnson, Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon. This is the dead zone for running backs, and this is why I went 4 running backs to start the draft. And there is a shot I don't take another running back after that because I am totally fine with having 4 really good running backs and just not having any depth behind them because 4 is plenty of depth. But Roman, you're back on the clock, man. Let's see what you go with.
I am very pleased with the way that things turned out, and I am surprised we haven't even mentioned him once on this episode. Chris, especially, you've been very high on this player. And I guess since we're not incorporating rookies as much right now, I guess they're easy to forget. But there's no way Kyle Pitts can slip on the board even more. I'm going to take him right here. Let's go. You shouldn't. I think he'll go a lot higher than this as well. But I'm very pleased how it's going. And then Herbert and Shark both after me, both good picks as well.
I wanted Shark
after that. I wanted one of those 2 guys, Herbert or Shark, and they both went back to back. Kyle Pitts, though, I have him. I made that huge trade in our dynasty league to get him, and I completely forgot about him. So yeah, I would have him above. Maybe
I have him over Fan Goddard for sure.
I would have him a little bit, yeah. But yeah.
For me, the reason I didn't mention Pitts at all in this draft is because I absolutely plan on taking him with this pick because I took Higgins and I was like, all right, I'm hoping Pitts or Chark fall back to me. And you look at where the draft fell out. I have a tough decision to make now. I don't even know who I'm going to take. I'm just totally rattled.
I'll jump in for you. Pitts wasn't even like his ADP is still a lot lower than it is. I don't know if it's not a reach on him, I wouldn't say, because he definitely deserves to go ahead of Fant or Goddard. Yeah. But the tight ends listed ahead of him were like Logan Thomas, Robert Tonyan, Gesicki, Henry, and then they listed Pitts. And I was like, I'm not going to let him slip any further. Let's go with him. In real drafts, I think he can go a lot higher, maybe after a Waller perhaps. But I'm glad he slipped and he kind of went under the radar. As with Najee for a little bit, I think, before you got him. But I'm glad I took him.
All right,
and now we're in no man's land with tight ends.
Yeah. See, I'm going to go tight end here, and I think there's one left on the board that I still like, and that's Logan Thomas with the acquisition of Ryan Fitzpatrick. I I think this offense is going to be good. I know Logan Thomas isn't as cute of a name as Kyle Pitts here in the 8th round, but I think he's a good enough player to where he had a very good season last season. I think he's going to be not an upper echelon tight end 1, but I think he's a safe tight end 1 that's going to get you, your 10 points every week, and he's going to mix in a touchdown every once in a while. I think he's an underrated player, and he's got some value in this draft. I think he's going to see a lot of volume this year. So it's not a really exciting name, but with me getting sniped a couple times right in front of my pick, I was a little bit rattled. So I figured I would just stay true to the board, take my tight end in a 10-team league. I need to get at least a competent tight end. So I was able to get one here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love Logan Thomas. I think he was extremely underrated down the stretch last year. I added him from free agency. I think I even flexed him a few times because he was that good. So I think he's right there. I think he is the last really good tight, or not really good, but decent tight end.
Right.
You're not going to lose any games if you have Logan Thomas in there. And I think every other guy, they're significant liabilities, or you're just going to be streaming tight ends your whole season. So I think that's a really nice pick, Chris. For me, the wide receiver is kind of it's gross. Now let's just be honest, it's kind of gross. I'm looking at Judy, Jarvis Landry, Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller. It's not great. And I think this is just I have really great running backs, but my wide receiver is going to be a little dry. So I'm gonna take a chance. I'm gonna take another rookie, a guy who I kind of alluded to earlier in the episode. And I'm taking Jamar Chase. I think he could have a really he can have a really solid year with Cincinnati and Joe Burrow. And there was a running back run there: Johnson, Mostert, Etienne, and then Jarvis Landry. So I'll probably take another receiver here. But Chris, I'll let you touch on that pick if you want to.
Yeah, I know I just took T. Higgins, but I was definitely eyeing Jamar Chase with my next pick. I even thought about taking him at the 8-7. I felt like maybe the 8th round was a little bit of a reach for a rookie, but Jamar Chase is a special talent. I was willing to do the reaching, especially for the upside in a 10-man league. I think you can still get some pretty good depth in the later rounds. So, but I'm definitely extremely upset with that pick because I was hoping to get him, but we move on. There's still a few names that I'm interested in.
Yeah, so I'll jump into my next pick here. I'm happy because I wasn't going to take Jarvis Landry with this pick either. I could go quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is still on the board, and there is a bit of a tier break there, but I don't know. There's just so much uncertainty there with Aaron Rodgers. I know I took him last year, and I was pretty proud of myself for taking him late in drafts. But I don't know. This high, I don't love it. So I'm going to go receiver to get a wide receiver 3. And I'm actually going to employ the same strategy that Chris used earlier by taking Cortland Sutton. I'm going to go Jerry Jeudy. I know he was kind of a let down last season. But if they do get Aaron Rodgers, he could be really good. But even if they don't, I still think he could have a solid sophomore season. And with the options left on the board, Brandon Cooks, God knows who's playing quarterback there. Will Fuller, he's good when he's on the field, but he's not good when he's injured all the time, and I don't know. I feel like I'm comfortable with Jerry Jeudy here as my not great as a wide receiver 3, but given the options, I like him there.
Did I do something to you before the draft that really irked you? Because you have stolen a number of picks from me, and Jeudy was another one. I know I already have Cortland Sutton, but I was gonna take Jeudy with my next pick, and now I'm back to tilting again. And you know what? As much as I don't want to take this player, if Deshaun Watson comes back, he's going to be extremely good for fantasy, and that's Brandon Cooks. They don't have anybody else there. This is a total. Yeah. I'm either lighting a 9th round pick on fire, which is fine, I think, in this kind of a draft with 10 teams. It's potentially lighting this pick on fire. But as a wide receiver 3, I think Cooks has a ton of upside. If Watson plays, he's going to be better, maybe better than Cortland Sutton as my wide receiver. He may end up being my wide receiver 1, which is not in a super exciting name, but all he does is produce. He was really good last year. I believe he was a top 15 receiver last year, and nobody even knows about it. So like I said, this is totally, 9th round. I think it's a fair price to light a pick on fire, and that's exactly what I might be doing here. So, but Roman's running into a little bit of audio issues right now, so we'll let him make a pick here. Me and we can discuss it.
Yeah.
But
he was pretty excited. Mike Davis. Okay. I mean, if anyone saw that leg picture of him the other day, I mean, it's pretty insane. It looked like he had like 3 footballs jammed into his thigh, but that was insane. But Roman apparently is really happy to get Mike Davis here. I mean, I like him more than Kenyon Drake, than Etienne, David Johnson, but David Johnson Gordon. Also. So I think he's going to get touches most likely because there's nobody else there in Houston. So that could be there. But yeah, I like him more. And I also like him more than Rojo, than James Conner. So I think a really solid pick there.
Yeah,
There for Roman. And, oh, you can discuss it too.
I was gonna say that's a great pick by Roman. I kind of forgot about Mike Davis, but I mean I'm pretty much done drafting running backs because I took those top 4 guys. But Mike Davis would have been a definite option for me there if I needed another running back. And then also the pick right after it, Jalen Hurts, the 9-8. That is a fantastic pick, and I am kind of jealous that I just didn't wait on a quarterback and take Jalen Hurts that late, and I should have went receiver in the 5th round instead of Josh Allen. Personally, I think that would be the one decision that I regret a little bit because I think I could have gotten a quality receiver at that spot.
Yeah, and we'll let Roman make his next pick here. Michael Pittman, yeah, okay. And Corey Davis. That really hurts because I wanted him to fall to me here with my next pick, but Michael Pittman, yeah, I was also looking at him. I think Roman is all in on the Colts this year. He's making up for last year when he disrespected them on our preview show, and he was high on the Texans. But he's got Pittman, he's got Jonathan Taylor. I think Pittman's a really solid value get here. There is some concern there with Carson Wentz. Is he good? Is he not good? What's going to happen there? But I think at this point, you're taking flyers on guys, and Pittman is a really good upside guy this late in the draft, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think Pittman has a chance to be really good this year. Paris Campbell is back, and I think he's going to be good this year, and is an underrated sleeper late in the draft as well. But I think Pittman is most likely going to be the number 1 receiver on this team unless they go after Julio Jones, which obviously you wouldn't take Pittman this early if they end up deciding to trade for Julio Jones. But as of right now, it's definitely a solid pick, a guy I was considering with my next pick, which I'm going to go another receiver here yet again, with trying to take more dart throws on these guys, kind of like Brandon Cooks. I'm going to go with another dart throw, and this guy is the definition of a dart throw because he is pretty much an exclusively deep threat, and that's Marquis Hollywood Brown. Like I said, another guy that I'm not in love with, but I like where he's at in the draft here with the 10 spot. I believe in the actual draft, I took him like the 8th round. Maybe that's a little steep from last year, at least. I took him in the 8th round, and he didn't perform as well. But getting him in the double-digit rounds, I think, is a solid value pick. And if he's not that good, I can just drop him. So, I mean, it is what it is. That's what I like to do with my late-round picks, take flyers on guys with a lot of upside. And there's no question about it. Marquis Hollywood Brown has a ton of upside. So I like getting him there, a nice dart throw on my bench.
Yeah, he does have a ton of upside, and Aaron Rodgers is still on the board, so I'm looking at him. But you kept talking about upside, and I started looking at some of the receivers on the board because it wouldn't be nice to get another backup receiver. And I know I already have one rookie, but there's another rookie here. Won the Heisman Trophy last year. Really solid player. Devante Smith, I think he's probably going to go either around this range, maybe even higher just because of the name value. There is some concern there because he is a rookie, and there is some like borderline QB controversy there with Jalen Hurts. But this late in the round, I think he could be a really solid player. I think he could be really good for them in Philadelphia, especially because they just don't have a top guy. And in comparison to the other guys on the board too, I mean, Laviska Shenault, Marvin Jones, maybe because Trevor Lawrence is there. Michael Gallup, but he was really disappointing last year. This late in the game, I would rather have upside than those guys, and I think Devante Smith has the highest upside. So I'm going him here. Crossing my fingers. Oh, my stupid team one took Tom Brady and Aaron
Rodgers.
Wow. I didn't want Tom Brady. I did want Aaron Rodgers, but it is what it is at this point. But do you have anything to touch on with that, Chris, or do you want me to? Can I hop into my next pick?
Yeah, I mean Devante Smith. I almost took him with that pick right in front of him. I decided to go with Hollywood Brown over him, but I do think Devante Smith has some upside this year. I'm a little worried about. I think Jalen Hurts is definitely the starter, but I am a little bit worried about how good of a passer he's going to be. So, and I know there's not a ton of insane weapons on the Eagles, but they do have Jalen Reagor coming off the injuries. Dallas Goddard still there, Miles Sanders, even Kenny Gainwell, who potentially will siphon some third down work away. I'm wondering if Devante Smith, maybe in the first year, struggles to, fit into the pie. I think he's going to see a target share under what people really want, but he's a really talented player. So if he's getting open, he may just see, that 25-30% target share. He could end up being similar to a Justin Jefferson potentially if he just totally breaks out and becomes the number one right away. So I could definitely see that in the range of possibilities, and I like the pick here right before the 11th round. But maybe you should have gone with your quarterback first and then hope Devante came back, because Brady, Rodgers, Tannehill, I think now represents a tier break, but there is a couple other guys that I do like, and I'm curious to see which one of them you go with, because I know you're deciding between these two guys, I think.
Yep, exactly. So I would disagree with you. So I mean, with my luck, I would have not taken Smith, and he would have went there. I wanted him more, despite all the concerns, valid concerns you brought up there. I wanted him more than Aaron Rodgers because, again, Aaron Rodgers just says he might retire for all we know. We have no idea. He could go play Jeopardy. I don't think you get fantasy points for Jeopardy. So I'm looking at quarterbacks here. There are two guys. One's a homer pick. One is one of my favorite players in the league. They both have injury concerns. Let's just say what it is. But you know what? Just because it's the draft, just because, hey, he's going in. Actually, I'm going to tilt here. I'm going Joe Burrow because Matthew Stafford, he could get hurt. Who knows? Actually, I'm tilting again. I'm going Matthew Stafford here. It's the mock draft. Who cares? Matthew Stafford here. I think Matthew Stafford and Joe Burrow, they're pretty equal. Both have some concerns. Both have some decent upside here. I think after him and Burrow, there is a tier break. I know everybody loves Ryan Tannehill, but I think I would put Tannehill in that Stafford Burrow range as well. So I have a feeling these auto draft teams are going to just nonstop pick quarterbacks here for the next couple rounds. Yep. So I want to make sure I get one here. And Matthew Stafford, who's a solid QB1, especially if he's going to be as good as everyone expects him to be in that LA offense.
Yeah, I like the Stafford pick a lot. I think he's got a lot of upside in this offense. Plenty of weapons to throw to as well, for sure. So I'm very curious to see how he performs compared to these guys that have gone around him. I would take Brady, Rodgers, and maybe not Tannehill. I might go Stafford over Tannehill, but those two are.
Yeah, I would take Brady and Rodgers over him. Yeah.
But it's still a quality pick, and I think there's only a couple more quarterbacks on the board that are worth drafting. But I need another receiver, and there's a clear guy standing out to me. I know they added a running back that they're trying to convert into a receiver, but I'm going to go with Laviska Shenault. I think he's going to be an interesting weapon this year, and another guy that I'm willing to take a shot on my bench in just the hopes that he turns into something special. But I know I'm going to be hitting the waiver wire a little bit with my receiving core because I really, really wish I would have gone, a Deontay Johnson in the 5th, and then instead of Brandon Cooks there, I could have gone, with a Tom Brady, with Aaron Rodgers, and then maybe even Jalen Hurts with that pick. So I wish that would have been how the draft went, but this is a learning process. I don't usually go quarterback early, but I still like that I have Josh Allen with these stacked running backs. But
and I think the beauty though of even though you took a quarterback early, but the beauty of it is there's always receivers. Like we saw Travis Fulgham come out of nowhere last year. We saw there's always receivers, especially in PPR leagues, where you can add guys that can be useful for your team. It's a lot harder though to find quality running backs or even quarterbacks of Josh Allen's caliber. So I think even though your receivers might not be as deep right now, I still think you'll have a decent team overall if this was a real team. But Roman, you can get into your next pick here. Son of a bitch. Javonte Williams is going to be the guy that I was going to pick next. And I was hoping he would be there. I wanted one more running back, and he was hoping no one noticed he was still available. But yeah, I obviously I really like that pick. Chris, do you have anything? I know you like Javonte a lot too.
Yeah, with Javonte, I'm not really in on him this year for fantasy. It would take a Melvin Gordon injury for him to be good this year in fantasy, but I think it's worth the dart throw here, and I've said that a lot this episode, but it's worth the pick here in the 11th round, late 11th round. I think it's an interesting pick for sure. I'm curious to see how much of the work he takes right away, but definitely next year, I think you will be talking about him inside the top 3-4 rounds next year when draft season comes around. But Roman also went with Henry Ruggs here, another guy similar to the guys I've been taking, similar to a Marquis Hollywood Brown, a guy that didn't really do much last year, didn't help you at all in fantasy, but has a lot of upside and can run really fast. So it's worth a shot here later in the draft, and I'm definitely curious to see how he performs this year. But I'm on the clock now. Very interesting receivers here, and I'm going to take one more. This is going to be probably my last receiver I take in the draft. You know what? We're gonna have a little fun with my pick as well. I'm gonna go with Jalen Waddle here. I really want a rookie.
Yeah.
It's definitely a reach for sure, and he might be a guy I end up dropping kind of early, unfortunately. And then he breaks out in the second half of the year, which kind of stinks, and why I don't really love going receivers in because they don't really do a lot in the first half of the year. But Jalen Waddle, similarly to Henry Ruggs, has that burner speed. I think he's a lot better than Henry Ruggs as well in terms of a player. I think he's already a better player. He's just on an offense with a lot of targets. So hopefully he can establish himself early on and provide some fantasy value off my bench. But another guy that I do like taking late in drafts to get that potential upside.
Yeah, Ruggs and Waddle were two guys I was looking at with my next pick here. So I really like both of them. Like you said, Chris, at this point you're just taking dart throws. Ruggs was the guy that was going higher in drafts last year because I'm pretty sure I might have drafted him in at least one league. And he was very disappointing last season, so I think he could be good this year. And Waddle, he's an unknown, but I mean, you're not a receiver that gets drafted in what the top 6 if you're not talented. And I think if Tua can take a next step, there's that familiarity there. He could have a really big year too for your team, especially this late in the draft. So I'm looking at the guys here. Devante was really the last running back. I was like, I need this guy. I'll probably take one more with either my 13th round pick, if not maybe even one of my last picks. So, but I'm going to go receiver here again. Actually, I go tight end. No, I'm not going to go tight end. I'm not going to get crazy. I'm going to go receiver. I'm looking at Marvin Jones or Jalen Reagor, and I think I'm going to go Jalen Reagor for much of the same reasons that I said about Devante Smith. Is I think Reagor was a talented player last year, but he was injured. There was all that turmoil in Philadelphia. I like his upside a little more than Marvin Jones. I think Jones, especially if Tim Tebow comes in and changes the way we look at football, maybe Marvin Jones is completely irrelevant. So I'm going to go with Jalen Reagor here. Again, just taking a dart throw.
I'm definitely a fan of that pick. I think he's got some upside there as well. Almost went him over Waddle. He was the guys I was deciding between, so I do like the pick. I also like the Antonio Brown pick right before your pick. I think that's an interesting pick, and he has some upside.
Yeah.
He got a ton of targets down the stretch last year once he was able to get acclimated to the noticeably difficult to learn Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. He picked it up pretty quick and started playing well. So a guy that I have some interest in this year late in the draft because he's a generational talent at wide receiver. I know he's obviously on the decline of his career with all of his off-field issues, plus just not quite as talented, but he's still a really high-level quality receiver that can absolutely make an impact. So I was hoping maybe he would fall to my spot, but I'm curious to see who you end up going with now.
Yeah, so I mean, it's bleak. Let's just say what it is. It's bleak right now. You're just kind of taking dart throws. I think I'm going to go running back here. I think I'm going to pick a rookie. I'm looking at 2 rookies who I think could potentially at this point in the draft. I'm just trying to find value where it's at, regardless of where they are on the board. I think Michael Carter could be the starter there in New York. So I'm going to take him here as my last running back. I was looking at him or Trey Sermon. But yeah, I J.D. McKissick maybe Jamal Williams if you're banking on a Swift injury. But other than that, Philip Lindsay, maybe. Houston doesn't have a lot of guys. Darrell Henderson, but it's pretty gross right now. Let's just say how it is. So I'm happy with my running back, so I just need a guy to kind of just throw in there, and I'll take Michael Carter.
Yeah, with Carter here, I think he's definitely the clear pick because I know you mentioned Trey Sermon. Sermon's, he's going to be a frustrating player to draft in fantasy leagues and a guy that I don't have a lot of interest in because they have so many running backs, and I feel like he's one of those guys that you could draft him and let him sit on your roster for 6 or 7 weeks. You drop him, and then he takes over the starting job, and then somebody else gets to enjoy him. But I think Drew made a really smart pick here with Carter because you'll know pretty much right away, I think, if he's going to have a decent role on this team because they don't really have a ton of competition. They got, LaMichael P. Ryan, who could end up being the starter. But if Carter could win the job day one and be their starter, or he could be irrelevant day one with Tevin Coleman also there. Maybe he doesn't touch the ball at all. Yeah. You can drop him pretty early, I think, more definitively and not be hurt by it. But I do think Trey Sermon could be a frustrating player for fantasy this year. But I'm going to jump into my next pick here. I already have one tight end. I'm considering taking another one here. But I actually am going to go quarterback, and for the fun of it, I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence. I don't really need a backup quarterback, but I don't really like that many of the receivers, and I definitely don't like any of the running backs left. So I'd rather just take Trevor Lawrence, and maybe somebody would trade for him or something like that potentially, or maybe he ends up being really good his rookie year. So curious to see how that works out. But I am not happy that Irv Smith went directly after,
Neither am
because
I.
that was the guy I was deciding.
Yep.
I was potentially going to take him with this pick, but I ended up going with Lawrence over him, so it didn't really work out. But Roman, that's an interesting pick for sure. I didn't even really think about Deshaun Watson at all, him still being on the board, but that is a very good pick for you for sure. I didn't even see it.
I did not, when you said you drafted Lawrence, I did not say anything about Watson because I was planning on taking him with my next pick. Great pick there, Roman. Obviously, I don't endorse what Watson's done off the field, but if he does, potentially done, looking like he most likely did. And I don't think he's a good person or anything like that, but strictly from a football fantasy sense, he is a good player. And if he does end up playing, that's a obviously really great value there for you, Roman, this late in the draft. But then we had T.Y. Hilton, Mike Williams, Daniel Jones, Jamal Williams, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield. And he takes Tevin Coleman probably for the same reasons that I took Michael Carter, where he's going to get touches there in the Jets running back group probably. But yeah, I was looking at Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield too as potentially a backup quarterback. So I'm a little disappointed there. And then we got Crowder and McKissick. Two solid picks there, I think, this late in the draft. And that brings us now to Chris, your second to last pick of the draft.
Yeah, I'm going to go with I'm going to take Jonnu Smith here. Paid the big bucks in the offseason. I need a backup tight end in case Logan Thomas doesn't work out quite as I thought. Yeah. I think despite Hunter Henry being there, I think Jonnu is the better of the two tight ends, more athletic at least. So I think he has a chance. If Mac Jones takes over this year, I think he has a chance to be a pretty good value at tight end potentially. I don't know. I mean, he doesn't take a lot. He doesn't need a lot of touches. He scores a lot of touchdowns, so he doesn't need a ton of volume to be an impactful fantasy player. So we'll see how it works out, man. I don't know. It might be, like I said, another pick just thrown right into the flames. I could pick up one of those tight ends that has a really big week 1 or 2, because there'll be a couple of these waiver wire guys that do that. So maybe I can drop him for those. But we'll see how it plays out with Jonnu there. I'm very curious to see.
Yeah, I think it's a solid pick. I was probably going to take him as my backup tight end, but I mean, this other guy's still there too. He's in his description, it says he's a blow end tight end 1. Obviously, we know he has a great relationship with his quarterback. That's Rob Gronkowski. So I'll take him here. Happy about that. I feel like you could get. Are we taking defense? I didn't know we were taking defense.
Yep.
I got his defense
at the end of the draft.
Yeah, so I like Gronk a lot. I will say here, since I think we all got to take defense now. I was looking at Justin Fields too, or Tua or Carson Wentz as a backup quarterback option potentially. But there's like I just said, 3 guys there. You could even look at Derek Carr, Roethlisberger, maybe Jared Goff. There's plenty of solid quarterbacks you could stream if need be. Tight end though, it's pretty bleak. So I will go defense here. And I mean, they went Vikings, then Titans. The Vikings is kind of an interesting pick because they had a brutal defense last year. I know they added some pieces, but the Washington football team defense is still available. They got Chase Young. They added some more pieces there. I really like that defense. You could go Niners too, with Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa coming back. But I think I'm going to go with the football team, right in that high from last year. They're a solid team, solid coaching. I like their defense on my team.
Yeah, that's a good pick. And once you mentioned the Niners, I got a little upset. But the Niners play the Detroit Lions in week 1. I'm going to take full advantage of that and draft them here because I expect Jared Goff to make plenty of mistakes with the Eagles, Dolphins. Now Roman's back on the clock with his defensive pick here. Let's see who he goes with here.
The Rams, pick, obviously.
And
the Jaguars.
Yeah, definitely.
That's kind of crazy. Team 8, I don't know what Team 8 is doing. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, they took receivers with their first 5 picks. Their RB1 currently is Leonard Fournette, and then they took the Jaguars defense. I don't understand that completely, but hey, I'm not their GM.
Yeah, with the Jaguars pick, I think the only reason they took him is because they play the Texans in week 1, and that could potentially be a very good matchup if Davis Mills or Tyrod Taylor are the starting quarterbacks. So
Tyrod Taylor, he gives you that game every now and then where it's like, oh, whoa, hello.
Yeah, he does do that for sure. Do you want to, Drew? Let's hear your team, man. Run through your roster. Let's see how you're shaking out.
Yeah. So running back wise, I got Saquon. I always say his name right. I got Saquon Barkley, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs, Myles Gaskin, Kareem Hunt, and Michael Carter. Really happy there. Receiver-wise, I got Allen Robinson, Jamar Chase, Jerry Jeudy, Devante Smith, and Jalen Reagor. So I really good wide receiver one, I would say. But then there's a lot of young guys behind him. Don't love that, but hopefully we can figure that out. George Kittle's tight end one. Love that. Washington football team defense. Love that. Oh, they got Rob Gronkowski backup tight end as well. And then Matthew Stafford is my quarterback. I'm not crazy that Stafford's my starting quarterback. But given where I waited and given who was available, Stafford was the best pick. So I think he could be good with the Rams. So that's probably the one. That and my receivers I don't love, but everything else I think I had a pretty solid draft. But Chris, you can break down your team too if you want.
Yeah, I'll go through my team, and I'm very happy about my team. I think my receiving core may be a little bit suspect, but I think it'll be good enough to manage. But I have Josh Allen at the quarterback position. I'm very excited to have him. And then my running back 1 and 2, Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon. Starting wide receivers are Cortland Sutton, T. Higgins, and then I got Logan Thomas at tight end. And then my flexes are DeAndre Swift and Najee Harris. Defense, I've got the San Francisco 49ers. And then my bench consists of a ton of wide receivers: Brandon Cooks, Marquis Brown, Laviska Shenault, Jalen Waddle, Trevor Lawrence, and then lastly, Jonnu Smith is my backup tight end. But I'm very happy how the draft shaked out for me. Josh Allen, if I had to do it again, I probably would have gone receiver in the 5th, taken Jalen Hurts later on in the draft, maybe with the 9-4 pick, potentially taking Hurts there. But I'm still very happy with how the draft shook out for me. I think this team is going to be a championship level contender. Personally, I'm really happy about this one.
Hey guys, I'm back. I think I'm good with my team. Not overly excited. I mean, it's never a bad thing when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, and I did take him at the 3-7, but it comes at the cost of obviously passing on some good running backs. And I think that it was kind of apparent how I got a little suffered in that area. Yeah. Running backs though, Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb. Wide receivers, Chris Godwin, Kenny Galladay. Tight end Kyle Pitts, the only tight end I took today, and he fell, so I guess it's worth it, and I think he'll be good for season long. My flexes are Brandon Ayuk and James Robinson. My defense is the Rams. They're playing at home week 1. A primetime game versus the Bears. That could be pretty good if Dalton plays. My bench is Mike Davis, Michael Pittman, Javonte Williams, Henry Ruggs, Deshaun Watson, who I think I could just take a flyer on just because I had Mahomes, and if he ends up playing, I can put him as a starter, or I can trade him away for something better. And then my last, then Kevin Coleman. So I think it's a decent team. I think I could have done better, but the Mahomes pick kind of threw me off my strategy because I normally love to take running backs early, and I had to change my game plan as soon as I got him. But other than that, I think I'm pretty decent. I think all the teams are pretty good though.
Yeah, for sure. Except for that teammate roster, I'm really not a big. I mean, their receiving core is nuts, but the rest of their team, I'm not really a big fan of. Especially with Leonard Fournette trotting out there as a running back 1, I'm not really a big fan of that. But you know my strategy. You know the name of the game that I like. It's loading up on the running backs early. I preached that for sure. The only team to take 4 straight running backs to start the draft, and I think it worked out pretty well. Personally, I do. I mean, this is a little biased. I think I've got the best team, but I also really like both your guys' teams as well. I think both of you implemented some interesting strategies with the Kittle and Mahomes picks early. I think Drew's worked out a little bit better because he loaded up on those running backs and was able to get Allen Robinson in there as well. Whereas you've got Godwin, but I mean Kenny G, I'm still a little bit skeptical about. Ayuk, same with him, and then your running back depth. Mike Davis is solid, but James Robinson, I mean it's not a bad pick, but as a running back 3, I don't know if he's going to provide a ton of value for you. But still, I do like your draft. I think you did make a lot of quality picks in the late rounds as well to make up for potentially the Mahomes pick early on.
I'm just glad I didn't give you a score because I remember last year when we did this on Fantasy Pros, one of us, I won't say who, didn't do a very good job of drafting and got a bad score. But I think all our teams are pretty good subjectively, and we don't need a score to represent that.
Yeah, I would agree too. I think we all got some solid teams. Anything else you guys want to add before we wrap this thing up?
No, I think I'm very happy we decided to do this now. I think this is a good time to have a first mock draft after the rookie draft. The hype settles down a little bit, but these players are still fresh in our minds, and I'm really excited for this fantasy football season. I think this drafting is going to be a lot of fun this year, and I really think just playing fantasy football this year is going to be a great time with everything going back to normal.
Yeah, definitely a good exercise. Obviously, the ADPs will change a ton before the actual season starts, but it's just good to track it as we go along. And we'll probably do multiple drafts along the way to see how those
Oh, yeah.
ADPs change. So I'm looking
Yep.
forward to that as well.
Yeah, for sure. And like you just said there, Roman, in addition to our additional fantasy football mocks, we also have plenty of other NFL offseason content, including fantasy football rankings. We'll do some of those episodes. And we'll probably start our team previews. We go division by division for the 2021 season. We'll probably start those up pretty relatively soon as well. So those take a little bit of time, and we want to get those up as quickly as we can. And in addition to that, we also have a bunch of NBA content. Chris and I continue our weekly zone defense basketball hours. Especially considering the NBA playoffs are here. They're here now. So you want to make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify and Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, and search us on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss any of that awesome content. Smash that like button down below. And also drop a comment and let us know. I know Roman said we don't want to give grades, but give us some grades here. Let us know who you think has the best team. And even if you want to grade each of our teams as well, we'd love to see. And, of course, debate between us who actually had the best team. So be sure to drop a comment down below. But thank you for listening to this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
See ya.